Hey everyone, how you doing today? What do we got here? Play guitar live. Let's see here what we got. Jason's here. Hi Jason, how you doing today? Coke is here. What's up? Let's see. Let me scroll down. David's here. Great to see you, David. David says was watching some of your playing sessions yesterday, Coke. Good stuff. I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm planning on doing it. I've seen a couple things about that there. Let's see here. What else do we got? Just checking things out here. They're talking about a preamp that's on order. Okay. All right. So let me move that there. We're talking about improv today. I went off and just tried to pull up a Jeff Beck tone on the Spark. Don't know how much of a Jeff Beck tone that was. It sounded, just super saturated, which is part of his tone, but I don't know. Just had some fun with it. Didn't even plan anything. Just decided to have some fun and make some stuff up today because we're talking about improv. And what's improv? Improv is, just being able to do something without preparation and have it come off being meaningful. And we're talking about all the basics, going on autopilot and listening too. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit today. The question for this episode is what's been your breakthrough moment with improvising? So if anyone in the chat has had a breakthrough moment, it doesn't have to be, something far out there. It can be a breakthrough moment, just like you just started improv, making some stuff up and found some stuff that was good. That was good. And we have a few other things going on. Let's see here. On Thursday, we'll be having our second Q&A for this season in the Academy. Next week, VIP get-together start, weekly ones start, and also masterclasses start next week. So a lot of stuff coming up. Today's Tuesday. We just got some coaching done last night, and we have some new things coming today. So I'm gonna see here. David says, and that's called playing the whole neck. Coke says, I thrive on improv, but not necessarily lead improv. Yeah, that's true. There's that's when you think of improv, that's what people say. But I like looping. There's a lot of people who do complete improvs using looping. Like 4 or 5 different loopers at once. I love stuff like that. David says, one of the things I need to improve the most is at improv. And then Coke says, it's a lot of fun having an audience to give fresh ideas for improv. And Jason's here. Hi, Jason. Jason says, I'm told my improv is better than my covers. Learning scales and playing over backing tracks. Cool. Dean's here. Hi, Dean. How are you doing today? We're talking about making stuff up with the guitar. So when I first started playing, I just wanted to sound like the people I liked. Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen, those things. And then that's what I would, I actually was a big Police fan too, early on. And I just wanted to be able to do those things, and quickly found out, yeah, I can do them, but I have no idea what I'm playing. And worked on those things for a while, and then got into a band a few years later, and that's when everything changed. That's when not everybody wants to hear the stuff that you want to mimic, right? And all of a sudden now we've got some time to fill. We've got some songs that other people want to play, and some songs that are stretched out, and you get to that first moment when you've got to make something up on the spot. And you think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? How do you do that? And you give it a try, like most people do, and things don't always work out the way you want them to. You start realizing, hey, I need to know a little bit more about this before I can, on the fly, make up some good melodies. Number one being, what makes up a good melody? What are the things that keep people's interest when you play? So, getting into the bands, and that usually is when the big, the big push to get that going works. And then it's a little trial and error for a while, but you start to get it, and you start to, you get a song that you really have fun playing over, and then it just snowballs from there. But what ends up happening is a lot of times early on, you find one or two things that work, that you like to play. Usually it's a couple licks that you like to play. And then before you know it, you're playing them all the time, and you get tired of them. So it's time to learn some new stuff. And you realize, if I have to learn something, figure something out all the time, I have to learn how to come up with some ideas on the fly. And that's where we start to get into the topic for today on the podcast. Jason says, my talk box vid was improv. Yeah, cool. I remember not long after we started doing this, one day I just went on Instagram, I think it was, and just started playing. It was right after I had got back from my gallbladder surgery, and then I hadn't played guitar in a while. I was really wanting to play, and I finally was able to hold the guitar and play, and that's up there somewhere. And it was just an improv I was doing. I wasn't doing like what I just did now was all kind of in the key. I was doing kind of some other crazy stuff, kind of pent up things, and it was fun. It was good to have a record of that too. But we're going to talk about getting on autopilot and knowing what that feels like. It's a really neat feeling. In today's email that I sent out, I talked about a situation where it was the longest gig that I ever played. I hadn't even thought about it until I sat down to write this email. And the longest gig I ever played came, we were in, it was one of our houses in Georgia. We had just purchased the house. And being a musician, you tend to use musician friends in other ways in life. So realtors and and in this case, a mortgage broker. So the mortgage broker that we used was a singer-songwriter. And we had just closed on our house. We were getting ready to move in, and he said, hey, I got a gig. I was next week, and I need a lead guitar player for it. It's just an acoustic thing. Would you want to do it? I was like, yeah, man, that'd be fun. No problem. And that was it. That's all was said about it. I didn't know anything about it. So the day before, I get a text, and it's like, here's where it is, and it starts here. See you then. I was like, okay. And I'm driving out in the woods, we're getting farther and farther away from town, driving out in the woods, and pull up to this little. It was like a dirt road. I'm like, oh, this. Seen a movie about stuff like this. I'm not so sure. So we get up there. I pull in, and you can only drive to a certain point, and then at some point there's like golf carts. Everybody's taking golf carts back to some house, and it was out in the woods. It turned out to be a really nice house. It was a big party, and so we set up. And right before we started, the guy looks over to me. He says, "This is going to be a long one." And I hadn't even thought to ask how long it was or any of that stuff. I was just doing it just to play. And we played for on and off. We did have some breaks, but for 8 hours we played. I mean, 8 hours. It went on forever, and it was one of those things where you thought, okay, when's this guy going to run out of songs? Never did, and more people kept coming. So I guess we got there in the early afternoon, and it was a small amount of people, and then the closer to dinner, and it's more people start coming, and my hands were raw by the end of it. I didn't know, I knew some of the songs that came in, but I didn't know most of the songs. He would just tell me the key, say, "Let's go." So we did, and I just made, any guitar player after about 8 to 10 songs, you start to run out of ideas. Right. And that was within the first hour. I still had 7 more hours to go. I mean, didn't know that. We just kept going. But it was fun. It was a marathon. I came up with a lot of ideas later on in the night where I was not playing as much, saving my fingers, one note and a couple things, that kind of stuff. So I was very happy that I had those skills to be able to make it through that, to come up with interesting ideas for a very long time. I don't think I ever played anything close to an 8-hour gig. So we took breaks. It was probably playing total 6 hours, something like that, of actual playing time. So it was nuts. But there's some things that we need to know to be able to make things up and keep things interesting over time. And keep things interesting is really the key to it. How interesting can you keep things when you've been playing for a long time? And we talked about getting on autopilot. And what do you mean getting on autopilot? And it's really about your thoughts. The what's taking, what's your focus while you're playing? What's all your mental energy being spent on? If you're, and the point of the podcast is if you're always thinking, well, where am I going next, and what key, what chord am I playing, and what scale am I playing, and all of those things. If you're playing, those things have to be there. That's the minimum. You have to know how to do that. But if that's all you're thinking, you're taking away from the creativity, and you're taking away from being able to listen. And listening is super important. While you're playing, listening to the other people, listening to what you're playing, and being able to kind of sit back and take it all in while you're playing. It's not easy to do, especially at first. You've got to, have your stuff together. You got to have it together, to get to that place. And how do we do that? It's repetition, just playing things over and over and over again. They talk about Hendrix. He just knew his stuff backwards and forwards. He could play in his sleep. And they show pictures of him in his hotel room, and there's guitars all over the bed. He's playing guitars before he goes. He's always playing. And the times are lately, in my life and where I am in life, and I can't get to the guitar a lot of times. There's too much stuff going on, too much stuff I got to do. But I try to get, in fact, I'm trying to get as many of these guitars like in gig ready condition, and I'm close. We always have, I know a lot of guitar players, they always have one guitar that's gig ready and all the other ones are being experimented on, which is true for me. But let's see, this one's ready. This one's got the new pickups in it. Everything's ready to go with this. Play a gig today with it. Same with the my red Strat with the black pick guard that I play a lot. That one's always ready. If everything else gets experimented on, that one's perfect, so I never touch it. Right. The Gilmore Strat is close. It needs it's two of the pickup positions. The wiring either, I don't know what happened, but they're not changing between positions. So I have to go back and look at that. And the white one is almost close. It needs a new nut, and it needs the jack needs to be resoldered. It's cutting out a little bit like that. So getting everything ready so that I can have a guitar. The point of that is so that, throughout the house, I have guitars here or there if I have a few minutes instead of just mindlessly watching like YouTube or something like that. I'll probably be playing a lot more. Let's see here. Coke says, I honestly fear not having a new thought related to improv, but have zero evidence that it's even possible. Not having a new thought related to improv. Not coming up with ideas. Is that what you mean? Coach says, well, that's not true. On the spot, it can be rough. But a few seconds later after a mental reset. Okay. All right. So yeah. And a lot of that's fear from my memory, of the times where people were looking at me, oh my God, they're looking at, what are they looking at? Why are they looking at me? Well, I'm on stage with the guitar. That's why. Right. So a lot of just thinking about the fear of, a lot of my fear was not remembering the words. That was a big fear. I could fake my way through the guitar stuff pretty good, but not remembering the words to songs when I was the singer. That was a scary thing. That I had to have a lot of little cheat sheets and stuff. Usually it's just the first couple words and then I'm good for the rest of it. But a new thought as far as coming to guitar. Watching, some really interesting one note feedback, finding where the feedback hits. I won't get in this room because everything's in my earbuds, but finding where the feedback hits and letting that ring, buying yourself some time to figure out what's next. I was just watching this thing is William Shatner, who's rating the people who imitate him. And one of the guys that imitates him said that the reason that Shatner, he would talk real fast like this and then he would slow down and say like one word and try and put emphasis on it. He said, and the other guy was an actor. He said, well, the reason why the guy does that, why Shatner does that, is because he can't remember what the next thing he's going to say is. So he's buying him some time to think. You got little tricks like that. Same with guitar. But that's what Cook says after a few seconds later, after a little mental reset, distractions. When you're playing, we're all playing at home for the most part, but even at home, there's distractions. I play here and there's the lawnmower next door's going off, or some kids are out there playing or something like that, and it just takes a split second for you to, lose focus. And that's why having your skills together, because at any moment you're going to be distracted, and really being sharp with your skills is very important, especially when you're performing. Let's see here. Dean says, I just watched a video with Eric Gales, who's fantastic, from 2012. It was amazing improv. Let's see. Yeah, he does kind of like a progressive Stevie style, but other kind of styles too. And Coke was asking about it. His name is Raw Dog, right? Coke says, I can't imagine learning and memorize the words of 200 plus songs. That's just ridiculous. But it's over time, over time, it's definitely doable. I wouldn't be able to do 200 songs, for one gig. But, as you build songs over time, you start to sing the first couple words and the rest of them they all kind of show up there. Google Glasses. Yeah. Google Glasses. Yeah, I know. Michael's here. Hi, Michael. How are you doing? Great to see you. Michael and Kevin came in at the same time. Kevin's here. I'm late for a very important date, but I'm here now. All right. Hey, man. Great to see you. We're talking about improv a little bit. So in the Academy, the videos that I'm a little behind on right now, but that are coming up about the Brushing Up series about improv is concentrating on the basics. I take you through, here's the things that you need to work on, and here's the things that have to be to the point where you don't think about them anymore. So I take you through that. We go do it together, but the basics that we're trying to work on is it's all through repetition, but you're trying to get to that place where you can concentrate on what's actually happening around you instead of the specifics of the guitar. Listening was the last thing I talked about today. Michael says, what did he say? He said, sorry, just out of... Oh, no, man. No problem. No problem. We're just hanging out, having fun here. Play guitar live. I'm going to be... I'm getting ideas for this here. I'm getting a lot of ideas. And I use two things in conjunction with each other. Two things at the same time. I use OBS for like screen switching, all of those kind of things, because I like it better than the StreamYard. And I have that going into StreamYard, which allows me to do all the other stuff, bring people in and have multiple windows and then also stream to lots of different things. So I use two different kind of systems working together here. And what I want to do over the weekends, I want to have, during the week, we're going to be talking about certain things, but on the weekends, I want to have a little bit more fun, do a little bit more gear type stuff and actually recording type stuff. And so I'm going to be working on being able to get Reaper working at the same time as the live streaming stuff, which I had problems with that before, but I'm going to get that figured out. So this weekend, I'm going to start, I want to start using the, this Torpedo Captor X this weekend a little bit and, working on some songs here. I thought it'd be fun. Maybe just be me sitting here coming up with ideas and hitting the chat every once in a while, or maybe you guys can have opinions on what I'm doing and share them, and maybe we can steer something in a cool way. I don't know. But getting some tones, putting down some rhythm tracks, putting some drums down, those kind of things. So that's something I have an idea for over the weekends when we do this there. So I'm going to ask Coke, since he's really participating with this improv thing, I'm going to ask Coke the question for the day. What was your breakthrough moment? Do you remember a breakthrough moment with improvising? Do you remember that time when you thought, oh, everything's kind of going like this, and you did one thing or somebody said something and you bumped you up made you feel like, oh, you sitting up straight, right? What was your breakthrough moment? That's what I would like to know for Coke. Coke says, I think I just need a computer that's made of 10 computers. Then I could stream and do everything I need at the same time. Yeah. My problem is I have a really nice laptop, and it has it as soon as it starts doing some powerful stuff, the fan goes on, and it doesn't sound great in this room. The desktop that I built the fans on it are super quiet, and they don't really. I don't ever run it so hot that they have to kick in unless I'm rendering video. So it's going to be worth it for me to figure out how to do this. Do a bunch of different things while I'm streaming at the same time. The computer itself can handle it. It's not going to slow down the computer. It's the routing, getting the audio and the video. Mr. Guitar. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. I missed the one before. Let's see here. Coke says, yep, I know exactly where it clicked. And it was said by, who's that guy? Mr. Sandman. Finger style player. Okay. Mr. Guitar. Okay. Chet Atkins. Oh, okay. Right. Oh, that was Jason there. Chet. Yeah. So that's where it clicked. And it was said by the finger style player. Okay. So did he say something? Was it like something he played or? Okay, cool. He's got an ancient video where he said stuff. Yeah. He was really giving with advice and ideas. I was able to go see I told you guys about this a long time ago. I was able to go see, it was Chet Atkins, Larry Carlton, Leo Kottke, and Steve Warner, I think was the other guy. Who's more, and they had it was in Philly when I was going to music school in Philly, and we had passes to go and see a clinic that was in the afternoon, and they had a show at nighttime, and it was really, really cool, and the show was great and everything, but the clinic was better. The clinic was awesome. They just got, first of all, they just cut up for like a half hour or something like that. They're all really funny, but then they started getting into all the different styles, and going through Larry Carlton stuff and going through Leo Kottke, two totally different players, and then Chet's stuff, and sharing a bunch of secrets. I learned a ton from that. And Coke says, this little lovely melody, and he put the chords going across the screen while his student was playing a melody. And he also explained the chord with others, and suddenly, she's playing the notes from the scale that go with the chord, and really that simple now, and now make it fancy. Now make it fancy sounds like that, right? Yeah, those kind of moments where you go, oh gosh. A lot of people get upset about those too, though. It ruins the mystery of how things work. There is a mystery to music, but it's not chords and scales and stuff like that. The mystery to me is how two different people could play the exact same thing, and one person would come through, it's the best thing you ever heard. The other person would play it, and it just falls flat. And they're playing exactly the same thing. It's what your personality brings to things. That's the. And songwriting too. To me, that's what, you're using the same chord scales and words. They're, rearranging them, why some of them are special and then other ones kind of fall flat. To me, that's the mystery there. David says, I'm still waiting for my breakthrough moment. Chords and scales are not merging like I would prefer. It's coming, man. It's coming. Don't you worry about it. It's coming. You're getting better. Every time I see a video of yours, it's better and better and better all the time. So those chords are coming, man. We all have our sticking points. We all do. And then sometimes later on, somebody, like Coke said, he was just watching this ancient video and something clicked for him. You'll find the things that click for you. It'll work out. Coke says, if you're only permitted to play 3 notes while a G chord was playing, would you play only sour ones? If you're only permitted to play 3 notes while a G chord were playing, would you play only sour? You mean like tension notes, like notes that are not chord tones? No, I wouldn't. I would have both. I'd pick 3. So, well, the G chord, this tone, I didn't really like this in the first place. Let's see. Let me get one of my own patches here. No, that's not right. Oh, were you asking that to David? I'm sorry. I thought if you're only permitted to play 3 notes while a G chord was playing, would you play only sour ones? Yeah, I'm asking David. Okay. Oh, well. Okay, I see what you're doing. I thought it was asking me a question. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Dean says, David, it is still a mystery, but it's starting to click for me. It'll click. And there's lots of little points along the way where things start to click. The big one is when you're listening to music, you're out somewhere and they're playing music, and then you just know what the guitar player is playing just by hearing it. That's a big one. When you move to that level where your ear is taking over a good bit, that's always a really, really, really fun place to be. The first time you get paid for a gig, that's a big one. Big clicking point. Yeah. This works. And then there's the playing the key, playing to the key. That's always a big one. People get really excited when there's chords going by and they're just playing in the key of A, and it pretty much works for all the chords too. That's another clicking point too. Let's see here. Coke says, I think when I started getting improv, I needed to know everything I could play. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to ask Dean. And let's see here. I'm going to start with Dean. Okay. And ask Dean. So Dean played a long time ago and then came back to it, right? What was the first thing that, what kind of clicking, when things clicked for you, when you realized that you were onto something that was farther along than what you were doing when you first started playing guitar? What was the first part where you say, okay, now I'm getting there? Because you've done you've had a lot of progress. So what was the, when you decide, I'm going to pick this back up again, when you realized, hey, I'm farther along than I was before. This is making sense. That's what I'd like to know about that. Jason says the ear is huge. Yeah. And it's weird too. When you ask somebody, hey, we're going to start working on your ear, developing your ear. Usually you get one of these, what are you talking about? Your ear, right? And so your ear is just basically, everything connects, right? So what you're listening to goes straight to your brain. You understand what it is, and then it shows in your playing. So, listening to music, and then it goes in, jumbles around, and comes out. That's basically what it is. But ear is something that people have a little hard time understanding what musical ear is. Coach says, now I see it all as, what must I avoid? And it's very little. Yeah, and there's a case to be made. If you avoid something, maybe that's what you really need to be doing. It's a fear kind of thing. I don't want to do that. Well, in jazz, those are the things that, that's probably not going to work. How can I make it work? throw the rules out. How can I make that work? How can I make the, how can I play this note and do it in a way that it sounds correct, even though it's not part of the scale? Those things are cool. Dean said, okay, so here's the answer to the question before. Dean says the 5 pentatonic patterns. Yeah. And oh, my guitar was on. A lot of, what's going on here? There we go. Oh, it was in the middle position. No. Yeah, a lot of people might learn a little bit of one of the patterns, but learning them all, thinking of the neck as a whole, is super important. It changes everything. Then the guitar becomes something. It's not that I live right here because I know this pattern right there. And you look at all the rest of the guitar and you go, oh, wow. Yeah, that 5, once you get to that 5th pattern and you realize that the next step up is just the first one that you learned, it's a big circle. You start to realize that the information of a guitar is a big circle. It just repeats, so kind of like the piano goes octave, from octave to octave to octave to octave. It just goes around like that. Yeah, and once you do that, you realize, hey, now I've got this. Now I can do something with it. Yeah, that is a big point right there. Definitely. Thank you. That's awesome. Jason says, what do you say? Says Coke is just a smaller list than what you can play. Kevin says, for me, it was learning the minor pentatonic scale and coaching with Lee. Then I started to see how the relative major and minors work together. And still learning thanks to Lee. Awesome, man. Thank you. And thanks for that. We got a really good, since I've been mentioning all the time, we're starting to get some podcast reviews for Apple up there. And we got a really good one today. It was awesome. And so thanks for that the other day, Kevin, too, as well. And thanks for the nice words there. But you're doing the work. I'm just sitting here. But, yeah, the minor pentatonic scale with and how the major pentatonic and minor pentatonic work together. And then, where one hand is, where the 2 patterns, and how, yeah, it's very, like I've said a million times, this all makes sense. There's nothing that, there's no magic to this. It all makes sense. But it's a lot. And it's easy to get off track, So you got to really focus and follow these steps. And once you follow these steps, then it's time to look around and do all the other stuff because you have that core musicianship as a guitar player. Coke says, sorry, I meant when I started improv, I felt that I needed to know everything that was possible to play. Okay, now that makes sense. I needed to know everything that was possible to play before I could improv. No, you just, like I said, one note played just right, that can do it, He says, but now I know to avoid very little and it's less overwhelming. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, cool. David says, they did not know what I was talking about at the gym when I said I need to do ear training. Do you have an ear training class at the gym? Yeah, very fun. That's a good one. Michael says, I do have a reasonably good ear, but that's about it for the time being. I stumble across great notes, but still need to learn why it works. That's okay, man. You're on the right. We're in the right path here. The road ahead is simple. It's just staying on that road. The road ahead is okay. Let's start from the beginning. Basics. Open position scales, open position chords. Then you move to bar chords and movable scales. And the biggest thing is starting right then for learning them all across the neck at first, because that's what most people don't. They learn 1 or 2 patterns and then they're off, right? But then as we move through that, so that's when I start talking about building chords and intervals, and once you get that, you're working on the scales and the chords and the physical playing those things. At the same time, we're introducing music, right? How that works. And then by the time that you're comfortable with the scales and chords and you've been introduced to the music, things start to blend together and you start to see, bam, oh, I know what that interval is. I know, oh, I've heard that Rush song 10 million times, right? And it uses this, right? That Rush song, right? What is that? Oh, that's a tritone. That's a flat 5, a sharp 4 type sound. It's the same thing that Jimi Hendrix used. Oh, okay, I get it now. And your ear and everything kind of blends together. And they say there's lots of different ways to climb a mountain. And there are different ways of teaching these things, but the building blocks, there aren't a bunch of different building ways of learning building blocks. The building blocks are the same, and if you learn them out of order, it can throw you off. So learning these things in order is going to get you the quickest to do. This is difficult. We're a group of people who choose to do something difficult in a world full of people who choose to do everything easy. We choose to do something that's not user friendly, and something that takes time, which is not how our world is anymore. So this is a good it's a bond, really, in that, and that's why I don't see a big difference between people who are beginners and people who are advanced guitar players. It's the same. We're using the same stuff. One person just has more time on it, but if you're both dedicated, you're both going to get there at some point. And I can tell you many different advanced guitar players who get amazed by some things that a student of theirs does. I can't believe it. Where did that come from? The value of someone who's coming to the instrument that they've been spent hours and hours and hours learning and come to it from a different way. See, it makes you see things in a different perspective. It's a neat bond. People who have chosen to do this. I really enjoy it. That's part of why I love playing guitar. Michael says, I do love finding the notes that create the tension also. Great fun. I just need to understand the scales theories patterns better. Yeah. It's coming. It's all coming. You start, and what will really blow your mind is when you're tired one day and you pick up your guitar and you start playing something that you've never played before. That's when you start going, oh, I get it. All that stuff's working in here behind the scenes. You play something and you go, where did that come from? That's coming for you. That's coming for you. Coach says, right around the Chet Atkins discovery is when I heard your podcast in Simple Blues in E, I think, and mixing lead with rhythm. Second breakthrough was from me. Oh, I'm awesome. I'm glad I helped. That's, all I'm doing is sharing, the stuff that, I guess, the breakthroughs that happened for me. And really, I'm sharing a lot of the wasted time that I did so that you don't have to, it's fun. It's fun sharing these things and seeing, how far you get. And another thing that I think about a lot is how hard I was on myself for years. That didn't matter. Like sweep picking, sweep arpeggios. When I was like 17 or 18, I practiced that stuff a lot. I really wanted to be good at it. Now, it's okay. I can do it. And if there was a reason for me to really put that in as part of my practice, put that in as part of my practicing, I would, but it was kind of a fad, that, some people still doing it, but It's kind of a fad, but I was so hard on myself back then. I needed to do this stuff. I was going to jazz school. I was like, I want to do fusion and all these kind of things, but it wasn't what I was listening to. I think that you play what you listen to. And as guitar players, we get things open up. Somebody calls, hey, you want to do this calypso gig? Back up a steel drum player. Yeah, I want to do that. Do I ever listen to that kind of music? Never. But I did it. And I learned a little bit from it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. Eventually I moved on, you're going to play what you listen to, what you like, and that's where you're going to end up. And so I worked hard at a lot of things that were not in the goal for me, Now I don't care. Now I just play what I like to play. I can have fun playing like an 80s cover song or playing just a shred type thing too. I got put into blues because that was the work that I did. But if some of you have seen some of the things I did with blues stuff, is I was more on the rock end of blues. I would do like, Warren Haynes type stuff over blues and those things. That's where I sat because that was interesting to me, Michael says, you are too modest. My wife has heard your podcast and she says she has not heard a better teachable. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to help, and a lot of these things, especially the podcast, has been probably the best thing I've ever done. It has not been the best financial thing I've ever done, but by far hasn't. Hopefully it'll get there. That's what I'm working on right now. But not, who cares about that? This has been probably the best thing that I've ever done. I stuck with it. This has been since February of 2018. I haven't missed a week, and there's been all sorts of crap that's happened before there. But one of the things in regards to what you just said, and thank you, that I appreciate that. But the why I think this is one of the best things that's happened for me is because there's a lot of things that you kind of get, but you don't know how to put them into words. I wasn't a words person. Turned out, look at what I'm doing, right? In school, I wasn't a words person. I was a math person and a music person. That's where my brain worked. I was not, I could have done okay in like an English class or those things, but it wasn't where where I was at. It wasn't where my thinking was at, And now everything I learn, I know I'm going to have to relate this at some point. So when I learn new things now, I learn those in a very methodical way, that if someone who's at each step of the way, when I'm sharing something, there will be one or two people who aren't getting it at that point. So I need to make sure before I move on to the next step, there's enough explanation in there that the next step will make sense and I don't lose people. And that came directly from the podcast, directly. I'm afraid to go back. I know people listen to those first couple podcasts all the time, and I should go back and listen to them. I think I will one of these days. But this has made me be able to share the things that I haven't really been able to put my finger on in my things that just work. A lot of stuff on guitar that some things you just figure out. And somebody asks you, say, "Well, how do you do that?" I don't know how I'm doing it. Have you ever thought that? I have no idea. I just do it. A lot of these little, especially when you start to get, rhythm. You start to understand rhythm, and you've got okay, I can do this one, and then when you start mixing stuff together, and somebody says, "Well, how are you strumming that?" I have no idea I don't know. I don't know what I did. I just did something that sounded cool, right? I can't do that anymore. So now I got to say, well, how did I do that? if you notice, I'll when a question comes in or something like that, someone says, well, how did you do that? I'll usually answer that with a question. Well, how did I do that? Let's see. Let's take a look. And I'll sit there and I've got really good at breaking down the things that I do to make sure that I can relate them. So, and that comes from the podcast. So it's a really good idea, and it's going to pay off one of these days. So I can get rid of all the other stuff I have to do and just do this. This is all I really want to do anyway. I could sit here all day and talk to you guys as long as my voice held out. We're at an hour now, right? Okay, so let's see here. But thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. And thank your wife, too. That was very kind. Thank you. David says, I never knew the amount of work and thought that goes into being able to play guitar. It's a lot. I have a lot more respect for people who can do it. Yeah, and the people who are the most successful are also the people that make it look easy. I'm thinking of Eddie Van Halen. The stuff he's doing is difficult. It's difficult. Now, there's a lot of people who can do it now, but back then, nobody could do it the way he did it. But what was it about him that people liked? He smiled all the time. He was having the best time of his life when he was playing guitar, and that's how you feel inside. A lot of us don't smile when we're playing guitar. We're serious. We got to figure this stuff out. And if he messed something up, oh well, let's move on to the next thing, So that's another aspect of it too, is the rock and roll. It's only rock and roll, right? Is it in tune? If it's in tune, you're ahead of the game, right? Coke says, I had a friend in high school that I watched practice once, and that's basically when I quit guitar because I realized what it would take. Then 3 years ago, I picked it up, and here we are. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that long. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. As long there's I say the narrow path. It's a very narrow path. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and then let your head wrap around those things. You have tons of time to think about it, But this is the work that you're going to do, and as we're doing it, I'm explaining it. As we're doing it, I'm explaining it. That's what I want for this is what I had for my in-person classes, is that I have a group of people who are players. I want this to make people real guitar players. Players. These are the things that a player knows. These are the things. Dean says, we've been doing the arpeggio work and coaching, and it finally clicked just how important the first, the third, and the fifth really is. Yeah, you know how easy it is for me to say, well, the arpeggios are the first, the third, and the fifth, and then move on to something else, right? You never stop using them. Never. You never stop. Why? Because they're the strong notes. And you need strong notes. If you play all weak notes all the time, you're going to sound what? Right? Coach says 2020 happened. 2020 also happened. And now 2022 is here now. Yeah. Well, things, I know overseas things are as bad as it's been. Happens where I am right now. Things are people, it's like they forgot, but hopefully it stays that way. I do know one thing, that we've been through a mess. And I think people aren't going to be having knee-jerk reactions about what we could do. We're all a little wiser through all this, So I think guitar playing is back and here to stay, no matter what's going on. I hope so. And Evan's here. Hey, Evan, I'm gonna end this in a few minutes, but do you have a few minutes of your time? Are you busy right now? I've been meaning to get in touch with you in about maybe like 3:15. If you have a minute, I'd love to talk to you if you have a chance. And I'm gonna wrap this up now, and thank. Evan says, "No, I'm good. Just finished a conference call." So cool. Yeah, I'll be right in touch with you right after this. But I want to thank Evan and Coke and Dean, and David and Michael, Kevin. Thank you. That was a great comment, Kevin. Awesome. Jason. And let's see, I said Michael. Is anybody early in the beginning? I think that's everyone in the chat, but I can see that there was a lot more people who are watching than just who are in the chat. So I want to thank everyone for hanging out with me today. We're going to do a lot more of these. This is fun. It's going to turn into Play Guitar Live. We're going to do all sorts of cool stuff here. One last thing. Michael said, the few times I played on stage, I was shown which chords to play in the different songs and why different chords go together. It was a real revelation. I was so envious of his ability. Well, that's an ability that you will be able to get. I have zero doubt about that. That is something I know you will be able to do. No problem. No problem. Okay, Michael and everyone else. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to take off, and I will see. What's today? Tuesday? I will see you on Wednesday, and we'll have a whole new topic to talk about, too. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.